Look, the Jets win the game after the trade deadline. It's a weird game against Cleveland, and Cleveland did everything they could to lose that game, but they did win. They've won 2 games in a row. What is the react? How is Aaron Glenn handling this? I know he's kind of a dick to you guys. Is do you feel the team has bought in? How are they dealing with post trade?
I mean, I think they did come out and play with a level of energy, and they made some. I mean, the special teams plays and the way they played a little on defense. Like I think they showed some signs that they're still like bought in. But I think we'll really know a little more about this team against the Patriots. Like a short week against an 8-2 team on the road. Like it's a really challenging one, and if they can come to play and you can just keep it close, then I think you feel good. But yeah, I mean, they gave a better effort than I honestly thought they were going to give, even against the Browns.
Okay, so Justin Fields will have games where, in my opinion, he has the yips. Like, he's afraid to turn the ball over. He gets sacked a ton, and it's not the offensive line's fault in a lot of these occasions. What is your read on what's going on with him? Because then he'll have a game like in Cincinnati where he looks good, and I know it's a bad defense, but whatever. What is your read on what's going on with Justin Fields?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of what you said, the yips. Like, it seems like he's scared to throw the ball a lot of the time, and I don't know what's keeping him from doing that. I mean, he came out in week 1. He played really, really well against the Steelers. Their defense, it turns out, isn't that good, I guess, but he looked really good that week, and it was like, oh, okay, if he can play like this, and this is a different kind of season, and then he regressed to maybe worse than he was in Chicago. So you never know what you're going to get each week with him, it seems like. And, this last week, he was pretty bad. It kind of was masked by the fact that they won. And, he had 40 of his 50 yards on that one screen pass to Breece Hall. And I think some of the play calling is, I don't think he's a good fit for the offense they want to run ultimately. And they're trying to work around his deficiencies with a running game. And, it hasn't worked a lot of the times. It has worked the last couple of games. He's just ultimately not a good fit for this team, this offense, and he seems scared to throw the ball. And you just can't play quarterback in the NFL if you're scared to throw it.
Okay, so Breece Hall is their offense really right now. I know Taylor could be a good tight end, and we can get into the receivers because even as a fan, I have no idea who they are anymore. But did Hall want out at the trade deadline? And if so, what's his attitude like now? And do you think they'll keep him?
I would say I think he would have not been upset if they traded him, is how I would phrase it. But I think he's pretty highly motivated right now to prove that he deserves to get paid. He came into this season. He had a bad year last year. It was an offense with Aaron Rodgers where they did not run the ball at all. And then he saw 2 running backs from his draft class, James Cook and Kyron Williams, go and get pretty big contracts. And, he had a quote before the season where he's like, I haven't shown that I deserve it yet. And he's been pretty vocal about his frustrations over these years where he doesn't get the ball enough or they don't use him in the passing game, which, there's been weeks where he has no targets, which is crazy to me. And so I think he's just motivated to prove that he can be a workhorse. He can be a high-paid running back. And so I think you're going to see him highly motivated and playing the way he is. And if he keeps playing this way, I think the Jets have to at least consider bringing him back. I think they will. They have a lot of cap space in the offseason, so even if he didn't want to, they have the ability to franchise tag him without it really hurting them all that much. So I think there is a pretty good chance he comes back, but does he want to? I don't know the answer to that right now.
This game tomorrow night worries me for one aspect from the Patriots.
That it would be boring?
No. Because everybody is saying what you're saying, Fred. And you go back the last 4 or 5 weeks. I don't think maybe since Carolina, was there an across-the-board agreement that the Patriots were going to win the game,
Well,
right?
that didn't work out in Carolina.
What's that?
No, Carolina. They blew out Carolina.
That's what I'm saying. So it worked out then, but every week since then, it's like, oh, maybe they get popped by Cleveland. Oh, Atlanta's tough, Tampa Bay. So I can tell you from a Patriots perspective why the Jets could win tomorrow night and how that could happen. What would need to happen on the Jets side for them to pull off an upset?
I mean, it would take a lot of luck. I think it would take them doing kind of what they did in the Browns game. They got 2 special teams touchdowns, which is pretty hard. Like if you can get a kick return touchdown and force a turnover, like the Jets literally have 0 interceptions this season, which is a pretty remarkable stat. They forced 1 turnover, I believe. if they can force turnovers on Drake May, that's like the only chance you have.
Yeah,
And
well,
Justin Fields.
that's not going to happen.
So special teams
that's
touchdowns.
That's what I'm saying. It's like stuff that we have to see stuff that hasn't happened yet, like Justin Fields' long touchdown run, or whatever. Like it's like.
Well, he's done that
I don't
once.
see any
In
scenario
fairness,
where
he did that in Miami. He hit a long touchdown run. He did that once.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this: is that let's put it this way: the Jets had, as Zach just said, the Jets had a kick return and a punt return in succession for touchdowns, and it took Cleveland having two mind-numbingly idiotic penalties to ensure that victory. So let's put it this way: it's not kicking on all cylinders. But look, the May gets hit a lot. I will say this: so May gets hit a lot. He does. If that's his fault, the offensive line's fault, it's probably a combination. Last week, the Jets' pass rush was very good. McDonald, what's his name?
Will McDonald.
Will McDonald.
4 sacks.
The fourth. Had 4 sacks. And is that something that they think can happen regularly? Like, do you look at this pass rush, even in the absence of Williams, as being capable of pulling that off more often than they have?
Not really, honestly. I mean, I think the pass rush has been it's been pretty disappointing this season. Even when they had Quinnen in there, like they had weeks where they either didn't have sacks or they had one. Steve Wilkes likes the blitz, and the blitz hasn't worked that much. Quincy Williams had the best game of the season last week, ironically after he was benched. So as you can tell, by the way, I keep describing all these things. It's been a weird season over here, but they do have talent, like Will McDonald. I think Jermaine Johnson. Their defensive tackles are okay. So it's not like a bad group, but the pass rush has not been consistent. So I don't have a lot of confidence they're going to hit Drake May a lot, but that would change everything if they did, obviously.
Okay, so the Jets are coming in here, like I said, with a group of receivers that some highly drafted that they got in trades, and I guess they insisted on at least one of these guys in a trade.
A.D. Mitchell.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. You know them better than I do. What's your perspective on the talent on the field at the receiver position? Are these undersatisfied gems that have just yet to be unleashed, or what are we looking at here from an offensive perspective?
Well, you asked what my opinion is on the talent, and I would say that there isn't a lot of talent there.
There you go.
It's guys like Tyler Johnson. He's like an okay veteran, and Arian Smith's a rookie who I think has like 5 catches, and he's played a lot of snaps. And so, A.D. Mitchell is the guy you mentioned. They're really high in his talent. I am intrigued by him. He didn't play last week because they wanted to give him more time to adjust to the playbook and stuff. I am curious if he can, get acclimated and what that would look like. But at the end of the day, these receivers have been getting open at times, and Justin Fields doesn't see them. So it's like it's hard to even say like how this group is, honestly. But I would say like just on paper, when you remove Garrett Wilson, it's one of the worst wide receiver groups in the NFL.
Yeah, and Garrett Wilson is not playing, and that upset Aaron Glenn very much. He was very hard on Rich Cimini. Do you think that Glenn is losing his cool, or do you think that this is just the way he is, and this isn't necessarily a negative?
I'm kind of down the middle. I do think this is who he is. I think it's getting highlighted more because they're not a good football team. If the Jets had the record of the Patriots, like Vrabel, I think he's a little better at his approach, but like he'll have moments where he will call out the media or make fun of them or whatever it is, and he's able to do that because they're winning. Like if Vrabel was doing that when they were 2-7, I don't think the fans would find it as cute, So I think that's part of it, and I just think he doesn't help himself when he goes to the podium. He has like these grudges, and he takes things personally, or he wants to control the message in a certain way. And I think it looks silly a lot of times, the QB stuff, the stuff you're referencing yesterday, where he just decided he didn't want to tell us an injury update because one reporter did his job and reported that Garrett Wilson wasn't going to be playing for a few weeks, and he took it out on all of us. And, I think it's a little childish, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because it doesn't really impact winning or losing. It just creates the impression that the Jets are dysfunctional, which they are, but it'd be better if he'd be better off not saying anything than the stuff he says, is what I would say.
Okay, so going into the season, I think at least John and I, and maybe Hardy agreed with this, is that we thought the Jets and Patriots were basically kind of the same. New coaches. May was a second-year quarterback who was good and showed promise last year, but we didn't think he was going to be great this year. Fields was a veteran quarterback that maybe just needed another shot. So here we are. One team's 8-2, one team's 2-7. If Vrabel was the coach of this team, if Vrabel was the coach of the Jets, do you think the Jets would have a much better record than they do right now?
Oh, absolutely, I do. I think there was games where it was very clear that Aaron Glenn was learning on the job. He made some pretty mind-boggling mistakes. There's the game in London where before halftime they kind of just let the clock run out instead of trying to score a touchdown. And there's been a lot of questionable things, I think, throughout the first half of the season where, it seemed like the players were still figuring out where they were supposed to be, and the detail wasn't good. And I know Vrabel pretty well. I did a story on him last year. I spent part of the year he spent with the Browns, me and him, and I wrote this long story about his year away, and I learned a lot about how detailed he is. And I just know, especially someone who's been a head coach before, I think the Jets would have 4 or 5 wins. I don't know if they would be a playoff team or something like that, but I think they would have a couple more wins if Vrabel was their coach.
Given that, how much runway do you think Woody Johnson and the franchise are going to give Glenn moving forward?
I think all the signs point towards them having a lot of runway, but they just traded away 2 of their best players. I don't think they do that without Woody signing off on this long-term plan. And he defended him at the owners' meetings when he destroyed his quarterback a few weeks ago. But I also know that Woody Johnson is not the most patient in terms of when he gets involved. And this is a team that is about to hit 15 years without being in the playoffs, and the fans are very upset. And he looks at Twitter, and so if the season's a wash, if they start next season 0-6. I'm not as confident that this regime will last that long, but I think we'll see. But as of now, I think they do have a little bit of runway, but that could get shortened pretty quick.
Do you think Glenn, he's learning on the job? Do you think he could be a good head coach?
I think he can be. I'm open to the idea that he's learning, and that by the end of the season we'll feel better about him than we did at the beginning. And these last 2 weeks were a good sign, but. It's kind of a TBD. I don't think he's shown that he's a great coach yet. That's for sure. He still has a lot to prove, and so I think it was harder for him than he thought it was going to be. I think he came in with a little level of arrogance because he learned from Dan Campbell and Bill Parcells and Sean Payton, and he thought he was ready. And I don't think he was ready necessarily, and so we're going to find out if he can adjust on the fly.
All right, because there's been a lot of rebuilding. And it's funny because, there are some Jets fans that are like, oh, I can't believe they're winning games. And
probably would have helped him to come into a little more stable environment in terms of offense, and maybe that would have allowed him to focus.
But Fields is playing worse than he's ever played. So, I don't know if it's entirely – there's got to be some kind of coaching situation going there. But, this is yet another rebuild, and it would be nice – if they could, but a quarterback can fix everything. That's what happened here. And you get a quarterback and we'll see. Luckily, this is an outstanding quarterback class. So, and they have all these picks. So they'll probably end up with a real stud. All right, Zach, I'm sure it's been a lot of fun. But nonetheless, you are in New York City, and that is a good place to be. Zack Rosenblatt, I read you every day, buddy. Thank you so much for coming on from The Athletic. We appreciate it.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here, point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist, point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.